Namaste viewers, this is Dharmendra from Solution Group. So this is another session, very exciting session actually. With me, we have some prominent personality from Houston Group, from Houston, Dr. NIK NIKAM, Swapan ji, and Swapan Dhairevanji, and Nikita Kambeji. Most of you already must have met them, but I'm really excited that on behalf of Solution Group, we have these personalities with very strong opinion. And with this one, I would like to invite Nikita ji to give some opening remarks and get this discussion started on Decision 2020. This is the last week. Next week would be the election. So let's see. Let's get everybody's opinion out. Go ahead, Nikita ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharmendra ji, and thank you, Solution Group, for hosting this meeting. I think this is a very crucial time, and we should all, share our opinions and concerns, especially to the community, to the people of the community who still haven't made any decision. So I would like to, talk about our POTUS. God bless him. What do you think of POTUS being an underdog, or is he a top dog? And that's why we see so many nasty, brutal targeting towards him. We have always seen that the media never leave him alone. I mean, all these 3 years and 4 years, he started doing something. He wanted to work for the country, but the media would never leave him alone, especially the liberals. I would start with Swapanji. Swapanji, please go ahead and share your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Nikita ji. Thank you, Dharmendra ji, and thank you, Solutions Group, for inviting me. I'm Swapan Dhairevan. I have been in Houston, Texas for the last 20 plus years. By profession, I'm a CPA. And I have been in this community working with different associations and organizations. Yes, of course, there's a disclaimer. Whatever my opinions and my thoughts and my process is based today on my experience, my research, and my facts, which I will be sharing with this larger group, of course. So, Nikita ji, of course, thank you for posing that question. And rightly said, so the POTUS, of course, most of us know that he is not a regular politician and the diplomat which a person could be. Yes, he has his positive things and some of the lacking things. People call him brash, outspoken, brazen, all of that. But is it not when the tough times are tough, the tough get going? That's what it should be. Yes, he has been around, and we are coming out, most of us are coming out in the open. There have been situations that most of the community out over here was so closeted. We remember 2016, no one wanted to even talk about it, about the election that happened. And it was an hoary night that the celebrations were continuing at the DNC. And of course, when the results came out, we know what happened, kind of a thing. So of course, with that being the case, he is a different person. He's not a regular politician, as I mentioned, he is a businessman. But what is America? What is the United States? It is based on free enterprise. It is based on a position that you can be successful as an immigrant or as a person from wherever you come. So, but he has been willfully been targeted, as you rightly said, not only by the media and everything. It has been around even before his inauguration happened, kind of a thing. So that being the case, it used to be American dream kind of a thing to be like him, successful, but no more. He has been taken for kind of the worst kind of a thing. And we know for sure, most of you must have seen the Oprah Winfrey show in the 80s, way back, when he was interviewed specifically, he was asked that question, that will you run as a president anytime? Not in the near future. But he said that if these politicians are not going to do their job right, I might think. And he waited almost 3 decades before he could make that jump and leap into it. So my thing is, he saw what is coming. He saw the views which were happening. The party which was a party of the grandfathers is no more. It has become hijacked. It's become liberalized, ultra liberalized, and that's what I would say.
And Dr. Nikam, what is your opinion? How would you answer that question? Is he an underdog?
Yes. Donald Trump has been an outsider, and most importantly, from day one, it is Donald Trump against the liberal media. I mean, that's what has been the entire story of the past 4 years. In addition to that, the Democratic Party has done everything possible to sort of delegitimize Donald Trump's election. But despite all these things, the accomplishments that Donald Trump has made in the past 4 years far exceeds any other president has done to this country in terms of economy, in terms of jobs, in terms of getting China to, take proper steps, also getting the United Nations and getting all the other countries to pay their dues, make sure that Mexico takes part in border security. So he's one person, when he's standing there and giving a rally, he can answer everything under the sun that is concerning American prosperity, American job security, American people. And that is the one he says which comes first. And that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, on the other side, the whole party has been hijacked by liberal ideas, almost going from socialism to almost communism. In fact, Putin made a comment that the Democratic Party looks more in line like a socialism, which is the precursor for communism. I mean, that is certainly we don't want to see happening in this country. And there is another important thing that happened in the second debate, which every Texan should wake up and listen. And that is when he said the oil industry is going to be shut down. I mean, you're talking about Texas. That is the lifeblood of Texas. There are more than 500,000 jobs. And Greg Abbott posted it would cost like $16 billion for Texas. And from there, we'll have rippling effect all across the spectrum of various jobs, from retail industry, from hospitality, from transportation. So I think everybody living in Texas should very seriously think about their own future, their own children's future, because oil is the most important entity as far as Texas economy is concerned. And on the world scene, I already talked about how Donald Trump has been very tough. At the same time, Donald Trump is one of the first presidents, I should say, in the recent memory, who has not gone to war. Before he was elected, they said on day one, he's going to be starting war and people are going to be dying all over the world. In fact, Donald Trump is the one who has never started a war. He brought peace between Israel and 3 or 4 other countries. And he also made sure that the American troops are coming home. So there are a lot of things Donald Trump has done. Yes, he is not a perfect person, but no one is either. Given the fact that he's an outsider, he has done a great deal to this American economy, American jobs, American people, and this country. And I think in times like this, we need a very strong leader, not somebody who is hiding in the basement for the last 6 months when the COVID is going rampant. So I would like to maybe stop here and then let others answer. Huh?
I mean, my next question is, in connection with what you said already, it's about employment, unemployment, and the economy. Earlier in February, we saw the economic report, and it showed that 3 years into the Trump administration, and his administration has already outperformed the pre-2016 election expectations. Are these results just an accident, or what do you have to say about this?
No, absolutely not. These are all things which are happening because of Donald Trump. Because of Donald Trump, we had a 3.5% unemployment rate, which was the lowest in the history of the United States in more than a century. Number two, with his tax breaks, he has brought more businesses into this country. He has brought back manufacturing into this country. More than 600,000 manufacturing jobs were created in the United States during his 3-year term. President Obama said manufacturing will never come back to the United States. And he has proven that he's wrong. He created 600,000 jobs. He got Apple and every other major company to bring the jobs back to the United States. This is not a fake number. The stock market has gone up, made more than 135 to 150 new highs during Trump's administration. So there are a lot of things Trump has done economically. And this is an important, even after the COVID completely reversed the entire thing, still the economy has recovered to a large extent to a tune of 11 million new jobs created since the COVID-19 started. Of course, the liberal media wants to take the number of deaths from COVID-19 and try to just run the 24/7 year-long just to undermine this president. But in reality, I think Trump has done more for this country than any other person. And in the same period, Joe Biden has been sitting in the basement.
So I would pose the same question to Swapan. The economic report, do you think it's an accident?
So, Nikita, I would say over here, all these numbers we are talking about, I'm talking a little bit on the economy and the unemployment that you're talking about. We are talking about pre-pandemic. He has been in office for 3+ years. Pandemic has been global. It has affected each and every country. So we have to judge that factor based on that. So what has happened during this 3 years, which was 2017, 18, and 19, the GDP growth was the highest. This administration has worked towards that. Unemployment, as Dr. Nikam, my fellow panelist, said, it has been at a very low level. Actually, the breakdown of that, the Hispanic, Afro-American, women, and the youth unemployment has been the lowest in the last 50 years. And that is statistics and that is facts. Let's talk about facts rather than about any rhetoric. Just read what has happened. Don't just say, based on the media, just a top line or just a headline which says that, oh, unemployment rises to 11 million or 12 million or 18 million. No, go into the facts, what has happened. The median household income has increased. As Dr. Nikam just now said, I would come to that later on when there might be a question. I would be able to talk about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, of course. That has been one of the biggest reforms since 1986, since the Reagan era. So that has brought into play not only money back because of the corporates, but also has created disposable incomes. It has raised the bar within the communities. The poverty levels has been at nearly the 17-year low, actually. So we are looking at those numbers. Of course, more than 400,000 manufacturing jobs have been brought back. And actually, before this pandemic got started, almost the federal employees, this administration gave a raise of close to 3.1%, which was the highest in the last so many years, kind of a thing. So we are talking not only just about a rosy picture, we are talking the entire tenure of it. You cannot just be judgmental based upon a particular phase which everyone is going through. You have to catch up the entire era and which has happened. Of course, stock market and all those things do count, of course. There is the Wall Street, there is the Main Street, of course. But going with that, you will have to admit that this economy has been one of the best and has rose to that levels. I remember 2016 when he came into he wanted to run for the presidency and everything. I remember so many conversations. No one wanted to talk that in the open, but there were so many conversations and we had the year to that, okay, I'm just going to pack up and if he becomes the president, I'm going to go to Canada or to Australia or I'm going to migrate somewhere. Did that happen? Did any of that happen? So why even come up with that kind of a thing is what my logic was. Thank you.
And of course, I mean, during when this COVID started and during the pandemic, President Trump said, my administration will stop at nothing to save the lives of my people and shield the vulnerable. So what do you think of his response to COVID pandemic? Swapanji.
Okay, so keep that in mind. The pandemic is a global phenomenon. And let me tell you, calling that COVID is again the liberal media. Call it the Wuhan virus. It is where it
China
is.
virus. Yes.
Yeah, call it the Wuhan virus. Why should we be under the wraps and the blankets and not call that? The 1920 Spanish flu is a Spanish flu. The 1840 Irish famine was Irish famine in which 1 million people died and almost 3 million people migrated from there to the United States. The Ebola, the West Nile, all those things were called by that name. So why are you going under the bunker and giving it a different acronym? And that is because of the liberal media. That is because of the news media, which is creating this thing that, okay, we have to pamper someone and not call them whatever by that name. So anyway, coming back to your question, let's talk about this administration. This administration, they did whatever they got to know from the experts, from the circumstances that it was like shooting in the dark. No one knew what this is. This was an unseen enemy. This was something which was unknown. Today, down the line, what we have seen over the last 7 to 8 months, we know what the protocol is, what we need to follow and what we need not follow. So that being the case, that was shooting in the dark. No one knew what it was. He had to bank his judgment based on the experts. And of course, the experts are experts in their field who have their own shortnesses, weaknesses based on a particular logic or based on a case study, which may or may not have happened. So, but he did his best. At that point of time, didn't he close the country way in time? He stopped the China flights way in February. And there was this other side of it who could name him and call him xenophobic about it. So we heard about that. And the thing is, he doesn't get credit anywhere, either this way or that way. You call that way, but doing it, I remember one of the earlier days when the March 15th, around that time, will he take the virus vaccine? Will he not take it? Will he do the test? Will he not take the test? If he took the test, why did he take the test? There is this logic and this media, they will keep on digressing that all the time. So that is what it is. So my thing was, yes, I will talk later on during your position about what he did about the economy. Basically, I would say yes, $2.2 trillion. It's not mere number. It's a big number, which has flowed into the economy. March the 16th, everything closed out. March the 17th, the CARES Act was up. The first Family Response Act was up. Family leaves and everything were up. All those things this administration has done. Public memory may be short, but that was what it was. It was needed, and they did it. The PPP loans, the EIDL loans, which you call the Payment Protection Plan, the EIDL loans, the grants, and of course, the unemployment pandemic insurance, unemployment insurance, and all those things that came into play. That was immediate. Can you believe? I'll just tell you one thing. The SBA directors, they say that the loans which they have been able to process of the PPP in this administration, which they did close to 549 billion, they processed those loans at a swifter, very fast pace of almost 60 days, and they closed those out. In logical and regular terms, all these loans would have taken almost 28 years. This is what the administration itself has their own statistics for. So can you imagine so much money and so much paperwork? They did it for the people and for the communities.
The small businesses, yes, very important. Yeah, and so Dr. Nikam, what's your response to this? Okay. Do you think he responded to COVID pandemic the way it should be?
Yes.
Did he make a lot of people happy or no?
Let me explain this. I'm just finishing editing my book on COVID-19. It's a 330-page book, which is going to be available on Amazon in November. I'm not here to pitch for my book, but I've done extensive research, not only here in the United States. I have looked at every other country, including France, United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, Australia, all these things. As Swapan said, this is a pandemic and this is something new. Everybody is new to this particular entity. And of course, Donald Trump, being a businessman, has done some important and pertinent things. And of course, he was surrounded by medical experts. And initially, he went through the advice from the medical experts. But I was just editing a particular segment on the United States response to the COVID-19. The Trump administration has done about like 74 different steps. And you imagine Joe Biden sitting in the basement for the last 6 months. Why didn't he go to Democratic states and give all his advice he's saying that he's going to implement after he's elected? Where has he been in the last 6 months? But coming back to Donald Trump has done a lot of things. United States population is quite different compared to most other countries' population. When we compare certain countries, for example, United States with other countries, it has to be compared to mostly European background because 63% of the population in this country is from European origin. And we also have so many risk factors like hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, which makes us highly, highly susceptible to a more severe case of COVID, which needs more intensive care unit. The older the population, the more comorbid conditions, the higher is the mortality. Donald Trump has done a great deal. He brought more than 1,000 executives from all across the country to come together to build ventilators, things like that. He created a hospital, a 2,500 bed hospital in less than 2 weeks for New York City when they were in real trouble. And so there are a lot of good things that he and his administration has done. Yes, we can always do something different. We can always do something better. But given the circumstances, I think the United States has done as good as most European countries from my point of view, because COVID is a pandemic. It has no rules and regulations. You look at Europe, France, and Germany, they just introduced a second lockdown because sometimes you just cannot control the virus. No matter how many resources you have, Germany has one of the best healthcare systems in Europe, and still they can't control it because the virus is totally out of control. And you can only go so far as what can be done as far as containing the virus. Of course, we had lockdown in Texas, it worked. And when the lockdown was lifted, suddenly the number of cases took off. So you learn and you readjust and you try to see how we can overcome this virus. United States has done a great deal in terms of research in producing antibodies, immune globulins, and we are within a few weeks of having a vaccine available for at least emergency use. So as I said, I have done a lot of research on this subject, but the media, as I said, 24/7, they are going with these 200,000 deaths and trying to make a story out of it. But the interesting thing is, as I said, France had an equivalent of 250,000 cases just 2 days ago compared to the United States population. The France population is 63 million. The United States population is 331. They had 50,000 cases. That equates to 250,000 cases.
Right. So, Dr. Nikam, yes, I think we should read your book and maybe, we can know more of the stats. I would like to move on the next question. Yes. We talked about China virus, and we all know that the moment we say or call it China virus, we are canceled. And we are being believed that the First Amendment rights are only for the lefts and the liberals. It's not even a legitimate right for the conservatives. So I would like to pose this question to Swapanji, that is this cancel culture killing the free speech?
Of course it is, Nikitaji. The First Amendment is the freedom of expression and freedom of speech. So is it really free? Are we really able to say and speak out our mind? That should be the question. What is happening today is entirely different. We do not want to start the conversation, but of course, there is always that hate mongering. There is always those posts, and social media makes that happen. It's always over there. We can't even put a yard sign, can't put a Make America Great cap. Of course, we can, the same people will be boasting about Atmanirbharta for India, the self-sufficiency, what it is. But when you talk about Make America Great, they think that is a misnomer. And they call it, that is something which Mr. Trump has created. So that's not really right. What happens is trolling. As you said, anything which happens, they will start putting offensive things, and they will start digressing it. The main point is always lost in the conversation. When they post a particular thing, you pose a question to that, it totally goes out of this. They will start stating the character assassinations, the deaths in COVID, and all other things which are unrelated. A particular point which is a headline, if it comes up and you start to even talk about it, nothing. It's a simple thing, I would say. Someone just posted the other day, friend of mine, we respect each other. We always respect each other. You know that. We do not want to start that thing. But someone posted, oh, he is going to just, the Social Security is going to be insolvent now because of his policy. And then there is big lectures and big trolling which happens on that. We don't even want to write. That same article clearly states inside that document itself. That is not what it is. The intention is different. Remember that. September the 12th, when that thing came, it was the deferment that they did. It's not really a cancellation of everything. That's a deferment. Employees have the choice to defer that Social Security FICA tax till March of next year because they are suffering from the pandemic or whatever. But no one will go into the content of that. And we don't want to write it, because once you write it, of course, it's going to be an offensive. Oh, you are citing this and that. What's happening? So this silent majority is awakening, let me tell you. We are not going to be bystanders. There are a lot of independents also who are thinking differently. They are understanding what the problem is. And this deep divide has also happened. As you know, you must be aware. What is really the Antifa? It is anti-First Amendment. So what is it talking? It's a totally Marxist organization. So we are going that route. And just toppling of statues and recreating history. Is that what we are here for?
Yes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Nikam.
Yeah, freedom of speech, it looks like it just applies only to the liberal media. It's not so far as conservatives are concerned. In fact, I just made a video of Ted Cruz grilling Jack Dorsey about Twitter blocking New York Post and even shutting their account. I said, how can you do that? Can you name one liberal person account you have, shut down or blocked the postings? They can't name one account. So this is a real clear pattern of trying to, block the the conservative voice. And at the same time, it is okay for them to, go on strikes, and it's okay for them to destroy their own communities, and then come back and say, we need more money for these states to fix their all the things that were destroyed. So it just doesn't work that way, because the freedom of speech should be applying to everybody. The social media cannot censor what a particular person or an entity posts. It's up to the people to judge as what is right or not. And in fact, they asked him, I said, what about when the Russia hoax was going on? Did you block anybody's account? He said, no. So we have a clear dichotomy as to how the media is in team with, it's almost like the mouthpiece of the liberal party, the liberal elites. As a result, it is quite challenging for people like Donald Trump and myself to have any voice whatsoever anywhere.
Having a voice, of course, it's very important, but they also tag you as racists. Do you agree?
Well, I don't care what they say, because just because they say, because as I said, the liberal media is totally one entity against Donald Trump. It's what a majority, the entire liberal media versus Donald Trump, or you and me, who are lone souls trying to preserve the conservative values. As a result, just because they say it doesn't mean, that's, I have done a lot of postings on my Facebook page, and I say, Donald Trump is someone who gets things done. That's all it matters. He doesn't care about what other people think or what other people want to label it, because he's a person who can get things done. So I say, those who talk or dime a dozen, and those who put them to real practice are priceless. And that's what it is.
Yeah, so yes, he can get things done. He can be friends with enemies and vice versa. So that's our next question. Foreign policies and global detente. Please express your views.
Yeah, so, okay.
Over here. I would like Swapanji, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Nikitaji. So over here, keep that in mind. Global policy and detente, as you correctly said, this is what we are out of the Cold War, but this is the Cold War of the media, which is happening in this country. And this is something that we have to, as citizens, and of course, as conservatives, and of course, as normal, rational human beings, being able to distinguish what is happening. Why are we keeping our eyes closed towards so many things which has happened globally? We know for sure the Abraham Accord, the moving of the embassy in Jerusalem. It has been on the list of to-do tasks of the president since 1948. Did it happen? It never happened. The North Korea thing, bringing back the soldiers' dead bodies from the Korean War of 1954. Who put the closure to that? Are we even giving a one word of encouragement, or even saying that it has been done and it has been done for the good? It has been on the plate of so many presidents in the past. Nobody has been able to do that. And these are the presidents who have worked and been veterans in the army and military and whatever. But this is a person who is out of the blue, an ordinary person and a businessman, of course, but he's been able to do it and negotiate it and bring that back. We are talking about the Sudan-Israel Accord recently, which happened. Is it not a foreign policy decision? The Iran sanctions, of course, the Baghdadi and the Soleimani thing, which happened, of course, to bring ISIS under control and standing us against China. Is it not a big thing to be doing? 2018, do you know that United States was the highest crude oil producers in ahead of Saudi and Russia? So these are all the policies which has been able to do foreign policy matters. And recently, when there was someone, a highly educated media person, totally blue, wanted to write something about it, when I mentioned this point, he said, no, this is something about foreign policy. So I told him that means there is a foreign policy in place in this administration. Now you agree to that, because they were always trolling that this administration doesn't have any policy.
Yeah. So Dr. Nikam, what is your opinion on foreign policy and global detente?
Okay. One of the reasons Donald Trump won was because of his opinion about China. That really stuck in my mind. And he was the first person to point out to 330 million people how United States had been taken for a ride, not only by China, but by every other country on the planet. The China was stealing American intellectual property. There was a unilateral tariffs, and there was a restriction of businesses in China. And this was not only really confined to China, even our neighbors like Canada, Mexico, and most European countries were taking America for a ride. They were not paying their United Nations dues, and they were not paying their fair share of fees they are supposed to be. The NAFTA was one of the worst possible things. It was all designed to drive jobs into Mexico. What kind of a deal is that? So by renegotiating NAFTA, Donald Trump has been able to bring a lot more jobs back to the United States. He has held every other country responsible for their share of dues. And yes, he has been pretty blunt about his approach, but we need to look at in the overall context as to how he has made America to be in a much better position internationally than what we were just 3 years ago. If Joe Biden is elected, he will be China's puppet. That's all I can tell you, because you have to be a strong leader to contend China. China has a lot of influence on many other countries, but at the same time, even Germany, France, Canada, all these people are fed up with the Chinese approach as to how they are dealing with this coronavirus and how much impact it had on the global population and the economy.
Right. So I think most of our discussion is, surrounding coronavirus. Coronavirus is actually the whole 2020 election is kind of hinged on coronavirus pandemic, and that was the main topic of discussion even during the vice presidential debate we saw. So that's one thing I learned from the vice presidential debate. So tell me, what do you think? And let's talk about everything but the fly.
So the vice presidential debate, to tell you truly, Nikita, I could stand only 20 minutes of it. I had to shut it off. And eventually I said, I will read the transcript later on, because I don't want to see those rolling eyes, those shrugging of shoulders all the time. It looked like Miss Pelosi as a speaker, when she did at the State of Union address, those rolling eyes. This lady, this liberal pack, the Samosa caucus, whatever, and she is being nominated as the vice president, and she was doing all those rolling of eyes. I couldn't stand it, of course. So that was my first thing. Of course.
So when you read the transcripts, what did you see? I think everybody was mostly talking about the fly, right? Instead of
so basically, they were all the time kind of, I would say, going over something which they already fought. The 17 people on that DNC stage, when they were running or whatever, those clowns were running over each other and putting each other down. And over here, they are kind of again saying the same things which they said that they will not do, kind of. So that was really humorous, I would say. Of course, the big part of that is they want to talk all the time about entitlements. They are going to talk about socialism. They are going to talk about writing off the student loans and everything like that. So what is this going to eventually? So keep that in mind. Again, $2.2 trillion has flown into this economy in less than 6 months. Someone has to pay for that. So no matter what, eventually someone has to pay for that. No one is grasping that. So where is that money coming from? All these election promises, are they sane? Kind of a thing, I would again say. So of course, the other angle about to start with, when she could not even acknowledge that she had the Indian ancestry, that put me off, of course, that her mother came over here when she was 19. Where from? Mars? Jupiter? I'm not sure. So anyway, so that is something it's bigotry, and it is totally something which divides the country. Look at the other side of it. Look at the high standard of Nikki Haley, the ambassador of this administration who was there. She proudly boasts about her Indian ancestry. She has been raised in South Carolina, the first woman governor and whatever, and she clearly says that there was no racism. She states it clearly that her father worked in a Afro-American college as a professor. Her mother had a small business. She wore a sari and she used to run her shop and whatever. And she grew up in that neighborhoods, but she did not face racism. And this is the other side of the vice president, which we are seeing always keeping on cribbing and always kind of pointing fingers at others and asking for more and more and more. That's what it is.
Right. So Dr. Anik, I'm not spending too much time on this topic because it was all that was just a debate. There was no answering questions that the moderators asked. So just briefly, tell me, what do you think about the presidential or vice presidential debate?
Well, I was not impressed with Kamala Harris, I would say, because every time she was asked a question, she would say, Joe, and our plan has been this. For example, are you going to pack the Supreme Court? She said, oh, Joe has this plan and all this. And every time the reporters asked him, Joe, what is your plan? He said, oh, I'm not going to tell you right now. I'll tell you after the election. So basically, I think, as I said, I was not impressed. She comes across as like a sort of a condescending person, and it's kind of hard to make anything out of what she's saying. On the other hand, Mike Pence was pretty poised, and he explained things in a logical manner. What they have done as far as the COVID-19 is concerned. All she was interested in, I was hanging on to that number again, I keep repeating it, 200,000 dead, 200,000 dead and all this. Well, if Joe Biden was there, it would not have been any different. As a matter of fact, it's going to get worse in the coming months. And
it would have been 200 million, Dr. Saab, as per one of his misquote.
Yes, I have several videos of Joe Biden's gaffes, which have had like 300, 400,000 views on my N Media YouTube channel. But as I said, she doesn't come across as a real poised person to be representing as a vice president.
Yeah. And there was a very important question. Yes, there was a very important question asked in the end by the moderator. That was again on behalf of a young girl called Brooklyn, and Mike Pence was the only person, out of both, who answered the question, and Kamala Harris completely ignored the question, and all she could say was Joe and I, Joe and I, Joe and I.
See, her whole presentation was Joe has this idea, Joe has this. I said, what is your idea? And when the reporters go back and ask Joe Biden, he doesn't have an idea. He doesn't have a concrete 4-point plan for COVID. He said, I will listen to the medical doctors. Yes, everybody listens to the medical doctors. And I understand, and I'm a medical doctor, yes, but doctors can be wrong too. And I can clearly give you examples, because when you get an infectious disease, upper respiratory infectious disease, people should be wearing masks from day one. This started in the middle of like February or so. Nobody was promoting masks in February, in March. It all started somewhere in the middle of March or April. So, but if you go back to Hong Kong, where they had the SARS virus in 2003, they had such a bad experience. So they didn't need a government mandate to wear a mask. I don't believe you need a federal government to say you need to wear a mask. When the medical professionals are saying, okay, you need to wear a mask, you need to maintain distance, you need to wash your hands, and you need to keep, yourself protected, you don't need an administration to make a mask. What prevented all these democratic states from implementing this mask? And still, they have maybe same mortality rate or higher mortality rate. Yeah, it's easy to talk, but nobody's doing it. They just want to use this as an opportunity to put down the administration any way they possibly can.
Right. So, I mean, that was a good discussion because I still, cannot move my mind from the vice presidential debate because I was hoping for some answers, but of course we did not get any answers from Kamala Harris because there was one part of me wanted to believe her, that okay, she claims to be an Indian. Let's listen to her, but she has nothing to say. Swapanji, Joe Biden, like Kamala Harris has always been talking that Joe and I would do this. Joe has this plan. So Joe apparently also has a plan to pack the court. They are pushing for an expansion of the court if they win the White House. So, Swapanji, what do you have to say about this? Will that happen? And on the other side, talking about the same justice system, judiciary system, we also have our cops who are being threatened by some citizens over some ridiculous events and incidents that have happened. Of course, they have our full sympathy, which were frightful, of course, those incidents. But again, on that, what is your stand? Defend or defend? Yeah, so two questions, Swapanji.
So I would say we are very sorry about what has happened in all these things which have happened. Remember, it's not only BLM. It is all lives which matter. Every life in our dharma as well. We believe every insect, every tree, every flower has a life. So we believe in life and also all lives do matter. As regards to talking about the courts packing and everything like that, yes, he has always been asked this question and he doesn't know how to answer that because he keeps on saying that we'll deal it after my inauguration. That's what his answer would be because he is so scared of answering that question because if he blurts out something, there is Mr. Bernie over there, there is Miss Alexandra over there, and the Big Four team who are going to take the radical steps of pulling whatever they want to do. What had happened was the courts, there were a lot of vacancies. As one of the debates, Mr. Trump, the protest said that he was able to fill almost 128 vacancies, which were unfilled from the previous administration. He inherited that. And now they are talking about packing the court because what has happened because of the sad death of Justice Ginsburg. But we have the third very accomplished lady up over there, Miss Amy. She has simply sailed through the process and she has been such a immaculate judge in her administration, in her history, in her reasoning and her precedence, whatever that was. So we will see what's going to happen. Your second post question was regarding the defunding of police, of course. So that is a sad part, I would say, because there are lives on the other side as well. We have seen one among us being shot down unnecessarily, Sandeep Thaliwal, a couple of years back, almost a year and a half back. So the thing is, he has his 3 kids. And of course, what do they look up to? How can we be able to convince that the police force should not be funded? There should be lesser law enforcement officers. How do we relate to that kind of a thing? That's one of my questions. Keep that in mind. This administration, Mr. Trump, has been able to come up with a lot of prison reforms. He talked about that. He was the first one who was able to do that kind of a thing. And still people will blame. That blame game is not going to stop, of course.
So, Dr. Nikam, what do you think? If Democrats win, will they be able to pack the court?
Well, if they have a chance, they will do it. They have shown during the past 4 years, even if they had no chance, they still tried to delegitimize President Trump from day one or even before the election. They tried to spy on his election campaign even before he was elected. So if they have the majority and if they can get things done, they will do it. They are not interested in what is in the best interest of the general public. They have a particular liberal agenda, and they're just going to go by that liberal agenda, and it doesn't matter to them. You know, talking about Black Lives Matter, yes, I 100% agree with Black Lives Matter. And as Swapan said, all lives matter. In that respect, Trump has done more to the Black population than Obama. And I'll give you examples. Number one, Trump allocated $10 billion to the Black universities, so they don't have to come every year to beg for money. Trump has shown that more Blacks are employed today, and they are earning more money than they ever did. They are having more opportunities to study. So there are a lot of things, not only to the Blacks, he has done it to all the minority groups, Hispanics, Asians, and all these groups. So Trump is a broad approach to the entire Indian American community. He wants to make sure that every American is treated appropriately. As far as defunding the police, that is the most absurd thing I can ever think of. When there were 60,000 people gathered in downtown Houston for a protest, who protected them? Who protected the ordinary citizens? And if you defund the police, and if somebody knocks on your door and you're not sure who this person is, who are you going to call? No country can exist without law and order. Yes, there are bad elements in every segment of the society. So we need to address the bad elements. You don't address the entire population as bad. I mean, that has become a sort of a all or none phenomenon just for the sake of this election. Because when the election is over, they're all going to take your money, go home, and they may not even remember your name, or face, or anything, unless they are in town to collect more money from you.
Right, and they're not going to remember that you protested for them on their behalf, and you burned all the small businesses on their behalf.
That's the thing, they're burning their own cities, they're burning their own neighborhoods. It just absolutely makes no sense. Why are you burning? You live there and you work in that community, and why are you burning your own properties? Why are you looting your own Target or Gap or anything? Because eventually, you know, you end up paying more in city taxes and all these different things that you have to face. Then you have to go to the federal government to ask for money.
Yes, talking about, you know, I mean, our local district, our favorite district, Texas City 22. What do you think? Will it stay red?
Well, I hope so. I have lived in Texas District 22 for 40 plus years. I know I look old and bald, but that's okay. But the important thing is, in 40 years, Fort Bend County has made the greatest progress in Texas and in the United States. It has the best job rate. It has the most educated people. It has the most number of two-income earning families. And it is the most affluent community in the country, one of the most affluent communities in the country. And we would like to keep that red because it is the conservative values that has helped Fort Bend community become what it is today. We don't like to see homeless people in front of Sugar Land City Hall. We don't like to see poop all over the streets of Sugar Land. It is very important for us to realize what is it that made Texas great, and let's not break something that is not broken. Let's not try to fix something that's not broken.
So, Swapanji, what do you think? Will Texas remain red, and of course, ultimately City 22?
Of course, I'm very optimistic about that, and I would stay optimistic. As regards City 22, which is the seat of my residence, of course, this Pete Olson, he has been a great friend of the community, and we feel sad for his not running for office, and of course he's taking his retirement. Eventually he will be involved somehow or the other with the community is what our hope is. But of course this race which has come up, this is a race which has brought a lot of people at loggerheads. This is a race which has divided the community a lot. This is the race which we are seeing a lot of what you call those aspersions and wild blood running up and down between each and every one, because this is the race in which we have a so-called Indian American Hindu running. And of course, we have an accomplished Sheriff Troy Nels, who is running for this position. And of course, here is where the split is coming up. And the people who have seen the accomplishments of the sheriff and a person who has been non-existential, just an outsider, just by carrying the roots and the name of being a Hindu, and banking just on that and getting the blessings of the elders and calling that to be his kind of a forte, to sit in the front rows at any and each and every event wherever, and to be in the public face without being able to do something constructive. We don't even know what if there is a 1040 tax return being filed.
Mm-hmm. So Swapanji, I mean, this is my last thing. In next 2 minutes, if you can give a short message to our community, especially the elders, the youth, and the taxpayers of this community. We have seen that elders have mostly remained very private about their political views. So what is your message to them?
So my thing is, I respect each and every one of you, and people as elders, we pay obedience to you. But as leaders or as community leaders, don't abuse the position that you have been given and you have been granted. We have seen stories about that, and I have written an article about that, which most of you might have read, the $8 story, which always happens. And of course, how there is a counterpoint to that. There is always this story about being dharma, being on the forte, being in the front. Everything boils down to that. Yes, this individual is different. He is not the regular politician and a diplomat and to be rubbing each other, but calling that everything to be the big thing which happened to be a photo op, that is a sad part of it. And over here, I would say elders, of course, whoever are voting, for that matter, think before you vote. Think whatever you want to, because the choice is yours. This is an important election. Don't just get swayed away because someone in position has been able to tell you to do that. See what is better for you. To the youth, I would say that we respect your opinion, but understand the facts. Don't get distorted information. Stay on top, watch before you jump, and learn from the mistakes. Remember that in your 20s and 30s, if you are not a socialist, you have the lowest IQ. But if in your 40s and 50s, you are a socialist, then you are the lowest IQ. So eventually you will know where you're going, but don't get into that. As regards taxpayers, I would say my final thoughts, remember, this is the year in which the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was formed in 2017, most of us have seen the benefits of that. We saw the stimulus money because of the pandemic. Of course, this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is going to run till 2024, which is permanent. Come tomorrow, come change of administration, if there is any, everything's going to change. All tax planning, there is going to be zero. Estate planning is going to be zero. Because day one, the Blue Democrat presidential candidate said, on day one on my office, I'm going to take off the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act out of the statute. So we don't know. The calling only the 400,000 and over to be taxed, that is different. You are not even playing to the crowd. There are so many other areas of the tax code which you have not even talked about, in which there are going to be gaps, and they are going to remove those. So watch before what you vote is what my suggestion would be.
And Dr. Nikam, so do you agree that our youth is very impulsive, and their decision is why it is so crucial to us? Because they are impulsive, or their way of expression of their opinion. What do you have? What message do you have for them and the taxpayers and the elderly?
Okay, let me answer that in two different phases. First, for those people who are living in Texas, it would be ludicrous to vote for a Democratic party anywhere in Texas to turn Texas into red. As Joe Biden said, he is going to hurt the oil industry, which is the lifeblood of Texas, not only for the oil industry executives, but it has a rippling effect on every other profession, because it's the oil industry that is the foundation of Texas. So think twice, because when you are at the ballot box, you're not being driven by this liberal media. Think about what's going to happen 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. And if you want to come back and work in Texas, as far as the national level is concerned, I say vote for a person who is working for you. Vote for a person who is interested in making America great. Vote for a person who wants to make sure you have a job tomorrow when you graduate from the college. Make sure that you have an income source where you have an opportunity to expand and do more things. Also remember that, mental block. The important thing is to make sure that someone who cares about your future, that's an important thing. You can be impulsive. Yes, you want to be liberal. You can go and vote. But Joe Biden has been there for 47 years. He hasn't done anything. And every time the media asks him, he says, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And he has said like 100 times, I'm the guy who started it. Everything he started it. The only thing he completed was building those cages for those illegal immigrant children. So Joe Biden has been doing it for 47 years. In fact, somebody went to Scranton, Pennsylvania. I know Scranton, Pennsylvania because I lived in Philadelphia. They asked people in Scranton, Pennsylvania, do you know Joe Biden? What has he done for your town? There is not a single thing named after Joe Biden in his own hometown, Scranton, Pennsylvania. So think about it. You want a president who is strong. You want a president who can stand against all the bullies, both inside and outside the country. You want a president who can work for you. President Trump is working for zero salary and he's giving away every money he's getting. He doesn't have to do it. So think wisely and think about your future when you are at the ballot box.
Right. And probably I have an answer to your question when you said, where was Joe Biden for the last 6 months? And maybe he was in his basement cleaning all his laptops, right? So, all right, gentlemen, Dr. Nikam and Swapanji, this was a very good conversation. Hopefully, those who are watching us, they don't have any doubts in their mind and they will vote for Republicans all the way through, not just Texas City 22, but any position that you find on the ballot, please go for red. Vote red, keep Texas red. And thank you and good night, everybody, all the viewers. Thank you, Solution Group, again, for putting this together. And we hope to talk to you all again. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita.
Thank you.
Thank you.